Hello.
So there is many participants whose mics is on. That's why echo is produced right now.
Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. So, good afternoon, everyone. So now we are moving towards the third session of day 3. And on behalf of NIELIT Gorakhpur, I welcome Professor S. Vinay Kumar. He is from Vasai College of Engineering and his immense experience in the field of robotics process automation. And now, sir will take the third session on the topic selectors and PDF automation, and hope you all participants will gain some knowledge and experience from the sir. So now it's over to you, sir. Now you can start the session on the selectors and PDF automation. So once again, you are partly welcome, and you can now start the session, sir. Over to you, sir.
Sir, your voice is not audible, sir.
Your voice is not audible, sir. Voice.
Thank you, Ritesh, sir. Hope I'm audible now.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
audible, sir. Audible.
Yeah. Thank you, sir, for your introduction. I myself, Vinay Kumar from Vasavi College of Engineering from Hyderabad. I have different certifications to my credit. One of them is certified system architect from Pegasystems. I am AWS certified professional, and then UiPath RPA developer certified. As part of today's session, I'll take you through the selectors and PDF automation. So these are the topics which are given to me for this particular session. We'll get into the session directly. So as part of this session, I'll take you through what are different types of selectors, what is UI Explorer, and then we'll move on to the other part of the session, which is PDF extraction. We'll look at the activities that help us to do this, and we'll go through, even though I've written only 3 exercises there, which is using read PDF, read OCR, and screen scraping. Apart from this, the entire session would be more oriented towards practice rather than on the slide deck. We'll start with selectors. I hope you have heard of this term selector in the past few sessions that have completed on the UiPath Studio. To give you the brief on what selector is, basically selector is something which helps us to identify the UI elements that are present on the screen. Most of the times we would like to read the content because the entire system is all about UI automation, user interface automation. We want to extract the information that is available on the UI screen. The UI screen could be a calculator, it could be a notepad application, it could be a browser with Flipkart application open, or a browser with Amazon site open, or it could be any other thing. So my interest here is to identify some of the UI elements and pick the data from those points. To pick up the data from those UI elements, the first thing that is important is to identify the UI elements properly. And to identify them, we have the concept of selectors. So selectors basically identify the UI elements with the help of an XML notation. So they will store the information related to a specific UI element in the form of XML. We'll see that how it stores and what kind of information is available in the selectors. To open selectors menu, you can see this is the UiPath Studio screen. There is a type into activity which is there in the part of sequence. And on the right hand side, as part of properties window, you have an option to edit or modify the selector. So when the other way around to select or modify the selector is go to the activity, click on there are three different types of selectors. One is called as partial selector, two full selector, and third dynamic selector. When I say partial selector, that means the selector would have incomplete information or part of information to identify the UI element. When I say full selector, it is going to have the complete information or full information related to identifying the UI element. When I say full info, it refers to identifying the element from the topmost element or the topmost UI element, which refers to as window, from the window element to the corresponding button. I'll have the entire content to identify the corresponding element. For partial selectors, I may have some kind of, it's like absolute path and relative path. When I say absolute path, I have path starting from C drive, getting into a folder called as Windows, under Windows, System32, so on. So I have the complete information starting from the root node. For partial selectors, I have /ABC, which indicates that in the current context, in whichever folder I am working with, in that context, I am referring to ABC folder. So partial selectors basically are those selectors which have only part of the content and they inherit the root info from the parent node. Anyway, I'll take you through what full selector is, partial selector is as part of the demo. And the third one is dynamic selector. Dynamic selectors allow us to basically modify the selectors based on the need of the system. For example, I would like to identify a particular element, but I am not able to do it. Sometimes I may have to fine tune the element or fine tune the selector so that I can specifically identify that specific element. To do that, I am going to make use of a mechanism called as dynamic selection. With this, I would like to get into the practice mode. Let me switch over to UiPath Studio. Let me create a new process. I'll call this as selector and PDF automation. It is going to create a process with the corresponding name and include all the dependencies that are required for that specific project. It's creating a workspace for the project. Right. Now we can see it has created a project with the name Selector underscore PDF automation. And we can see main.xaml, which is the workflow. Let me open that workflow. I would like to drag and drop an activity called as flow. Flowchart and add different set of sequences under that. Let me save this. Let me create a new sequence with the name Selector. Selectors is the sequence name. So I'm going to create selectors.xaml file. And as part of that, I would like to add different set of activities and take you through the selectors item. Let me select type into activity. When I drag and drop type into activity, you can see it indicates that there is some problem with the activity. There is a red icon which is displayed on the type into activity, which indicates that there is something which needs to be done with this. There is incomplete info within the type into. Let me click on indicate on screen and select a particular application. In this case, let me open an application called as calculator. Let me select indicate on screen and choose the calculator application. Now, once I've selected the application, let me get into the menu item of that specific activity and choose edit selector. When I open edit selector, it is showing me the content in the form of an XML representation, which is used to identify the corresponding application here. Even though type into requires you to point to a specific text box or an area where you can enter, I have right now selected only the application. And that's the reason why it is showing me a window whose application name is application frame.exe, whose ID is window calculator underscore something, and whose title is calculator. So this title indicates the title of the corresponding application, which is calculator. And this info, which is app ID, title, and CLS, all these are being used, which are referred to as attributes. Attributes are being used to identify the element or the application itself. When I click on validate, it is showing me green, which indicates that I am able to identify the corresponding application clearly. Let me cancel this. Let me do once again a remove informative screenshot. Let me click on edit selector. Click on indicate element. Indicate element allows you to point to the corresponding element in the application. So let me click on indicate element and open calculator application, because type into expects you to type something into the area where there is a provision to type. I would like to select this area because this is a place where we can basically type some content. Let me select this. Now I can see the app is application frame host.exe. App ID is the same. Title is calculator. And class is landmark target. Automation ID is calculator results. and the name is display 0. And my validate button shows me that, shows green, which indicates that I am able to identify the corresponding element. Let me click on OK. Type some content here, which is 30. And because I've removed the informative screenshot, if I want, I can click on take informative screenshot, select this. If you want to edit again, change informative screenshot. This is only an indicative of the area that I am trying to access. It has nothing to do with the actual execution of the application. Let me save this, debug. So now we can see that it has entered 30 as part of the calculator application. Now, let me go back, rerun the same code once again. I'm running the same application without any change once again. It is taking more time to basically enter the content. The possibility here is it could fail. It is trying to find the element, but it is unable to find. And you can see it has thrown me an error message saying that type into could not find the UI element corresponding to the selector. So the selector that is available is not able to find the corresponding UI element, which it could identify earlier. It is not able to identify now. So the reason here is, if you look at the error message, it says the first selector is Windows app and landmark target role UI automation ID is display 0. And then it has displayed that the closest matches found is display is 30. So it is trying to identify the element. It is searching for an element with the name as display 0. But it could found that there is an element with the name display is 30, not display is 0. That's the reason why it could not enter content into the calculator application. So what I'll do now is I'll stop this. Because there is a content 30, the selector was not able to identify. Let me clear this. Rerun the application now. I'm clicking on debug. Now you can see it is successful enough and has entered 30 into the calculator text box. So what was the problem with the earlier one? So when I run it now, again, it will throw me an error message saying that I was not able to identify. This is because there is a problem with the selector. Let me go back, edit selector. This particular window is always trying to access a calculator application with no value here or with 0 value. It is expecting only value 0 in the calculator when it starts. When the application is started, the robo is expecting only 0 to be available as part of this window. But when I have entered 30, the attribute related to this application has changed. One of the attributes of this particular application has changed and whose value was 30. And that has created a problem to my robo in terms of identifying the element. To solve that problem, what is that I can do is I can go modify the content in the selector. So how do I modify? One way is going to open UI Explorer or directly go to the content below the selector editor, which is called as edit selector. In the edit selector, if you look at, it says window app is application from host, and the second one is landmark target, and the third one is the actual one, which is trying to identify the text box and whose name is display is 0. What is that I can do now? I can change this to display is 30 and click on validate. It says valid. If I change it to 20 and click on validate, it indicates I'm not able to identify because on the application, whatever value that is displayed is 30 and it is expecting 30 there. So let me change it to 30 and click on validate. It should show me the validate button in green color, indicating that it is able to identify. It is trying to validate. Let me do once again instead of wasting the time. Let me go edit selector, change this to 30. It is doing it slowly. Okay, assuming that it is valid should show me green color. It will be green anyway. Let me consider it as display is 30 plus OK. Let me run it. So because I've modified the selector, it should able to identify this calculator application type 30 again. So let me go run it. So now you can see it has executed and has entered another 30 into the text field, but the 30 is not replaced. It has appended the content into the text box. The reason is the type into by default appends the text. If you want to change the properties, you can go to the properties panel of type into. You can see there is an option here which is empty field. Empty field, when you select, I've selected empty field as selected, whose value is true, and save it. And when I run it again, it should now replace the content 30 with 30. But it fails now. Because why does it fail? Why does the selector fail to identify this particular element? Still, I am not able to see 30 here. It has not replaced 30 with 30. This is because there is a problem again with the selector. What does type into is expecting? It is expecting to have only value 30 in this text box. Display is 30 is what I have modified it. But right now the value says it is 30. Let me go to the selector. Let me click on edit selector. You can see here the name is display is 30. So it is expecting only 30 to be returned. Instead, I would like to make it available or accessible for any different set of values. It should work for value 0. It should work for value 30. It should work for value 30, 30. It should work for 54. Irrespective of the value that is available in the text box, it should run. To do that, I have got a wildcard character, which is referred to as, there are 3 types of wildcard characters: question mark, star, and plus. I would like to replace it with star. Star indicates any number of characters. Star indicates any number of characters. So I've modified now name as display is star. So that could be any value. Right? So it should show me green color, validate should turn to green. It is taking more time to show me that. Let me press OK. It is a bit slow in terms of validating in my case. Instead of waiting for the validate button to turn green, I would like to run the application and see whether it is working fine or not. Okay. To do that, I can click on debug, save it, click on debug. What is that I've done? I've included name as display star. That means whatever value that is available irrespective of this value, you should be able to identify this UI element. That is what I've said. So let me run it. So now you can see, because I've selected empty field, it has emptied the content in the text box, which was existent earlier, that is 30, 30, and replaced the content with 30. So now what is that I've done? I've fine-tuned the selector to meet my requirements. My requirement is it should work, not just for calculator application, which is open for the first time. When you open for the first time, the state of the calculator is like this. But it should also work for cases where my state is like this. It should work. Let me run it again. Let us see whether it works or not. Yes, it did work. It has replaced content 89 with 30. So what is that I've done? I have modified the selector to be able to identify this UI element, which is my text box, which is going to have any kind of value. The same is the case. Let me go take one more example. Let me add another activity called as attach window. Let me go use another activity called as attach window. Even for this activity, you can see there are 3 lines, which is a menu, which is allowing you to choose edit selector, or you can directly go to indicate on screen, which is going to generate the selector. Let me click on indicate on screen here or either here. It is more or less the same. Click on indicate on screen. Let me open calculator. Select this application. So now when I go click on edit selector, you can see it is valid and it has noted down the information related to the application, the ID, and the title of that specific application. So these 3 attributes are basically used by the activity to identify the corresponding application. Okay, let me press OK. drag and drop. Let me not do drag and drop activity here. Let me drag and drop an activity called as type into only instead of right line. Let me choose type into itself. Type into indicate element on the screen. Let me choose this and give some content as 60. Let me save this. I would like to comment the first one. To comment a specific activity, I hope you know, you select that activity, press Ctrl D. It is commented out. And this particular activity is not going to run. It's like comment in any programming language like C. So right now, what is that I'm trying to do? I'm trying to attach to this particular window and replace this content 30 with 60. So to replace the content, I should go to the properties of type into, select empty field as true. Otherwise, it will append the content. So let me save it. Let me run it. Now you can see it has replaced the content 30 with 60. Good that it has identified the window. It has attached it to this window first thing. Second thing is it has used type into to modify the value. Let me go back, run it again. It is taking more time. That indicates that it may fail. Do you think it will fail? Can anyone answer? Will it fail to identify the application? You can unmute yourself and speak. It did fail because it says type into activity is expecting displays that let me stop it. This was same problem, right? Earlier also we had this problem. Let me go to edit selector. It is expecting name as display is 30. So what is that I can do? I can change this to star and press OK. Let me save it and run it again. Yes, replaced 60 with 60 again, and it has executed correctly. If I change this value to 50, save it and run it, it should be able to identify. It could identify and change the value to 50. So I'm able to identify the application as well as able to identify the element, which is the text box to enter value 50. Let me go to selector, which is available in attached window, edit selector. You can see there are only 3 attributes. One is app, app ID, and title. Let me go to the first option. Let me uncomment this. To do this, Control E is to enable the activity. Let me go to the selector of type into of the first one. it has several attributes, or the XML file has app ID, title, class, automation ID, name. That means starting from the application to the name of the text box, all the attributes are available here. When I go to the same type into window, which is available under attached window, type into activity which is available in attached window. Let me go edit selector. Okay, irrespective of the validate, if you look at this, the first three values, app ID and title, look to be not enabled. If you look at CLS, it is in black color, whereas the first three are in gray. That means they are in disabled state. I cannot select them. I cannot modify them. Whereas the remaining three, class or automation ID, I can modify them. Right? If I remove this name, you can see name is omitted. Omit colon name. I can modify only the last three. Whereas I am not able to modify app ID or title. This is because attached window is a container. And it is trying to inherit. It is trying to inherit the type into activity, which is inside the attached window, is trying to inherit the first three properties, app ID and title. So what is this selector called as? This is called as partial selector. I can only work with this. This is the root, which is coming from the parent node, and I cannot modify it. If I have to modify that content, I should do it in the parent window itself. So this is called as partial selector. Whereas in this case, in the first case, when I have used only type into, I have a selector starting from my app. I can modify this app ID. I can modify this title. Any field, whichever I want like to, I can modify them. This is because I am able to identify starting from the root node to the element. This is called as full selector. When you use, hopefully you might have completed the recorder session in the forenoon session. If you have used basic recorder, when you use basic recorder, what happens in the basic recorder? When I go to recording, basic recording, okay, click on record and I've clicked escape. Click on recording again. It should give me a type into. Never mind. Let me restart again. Let me click on basic recorder. Open the application called as calculator. Click on record. Type 89 plus 6 is equal to, and then press escape. Save and exit. Now basic recorder has created set of options or set of activities, there are several click activities. Each of these activities, when I click on edit selector, you can see app, app ID, title, name, automation ID, class, so on until the name clear. So I've clicked first time clear button, and second one is I've clicked on button number 8. So when I click edit selector, you can see app, app ID, title until button name as 8. Similarly, for button name as 9 edit selector, you could see the entire flow, that is starting from the app ID or app to the complete name 9. So in basic recorder, each of these activities are not part of any container because they are individual. They are basically using full selector. Full selector means they are trying to identify from the root node to choose a specific element. When you use the other type of recorder, which is desktop recorder, you might have noticed it will be similar to this format where you will have attach window and followed by click events. Did you identify that in the forenoon session, or do I need to show you the code related to desktop recording and show you the selectors?
No.
Are you all able to follow me?
Yes.
Can someone respond, please?
Yes.
Sir,
Yes. Yes. Yes, please. Okay, let me create a new sequence called as desktop. Click on recorder, select desktop recorder. Let me click on recorder, record option. Let me minimize this. Click on record option. Select C. I've clicked on C. Selecting 8 or clicking 9 plus 6 or 3 equals to. Press escape. Double escape will also save it. I've saved it. You can see the flow is like this. You have on the top attach window. It is trying to attach to the calculator application. Let me choose the selector. In the selector, you can see there are only 3 items. One is app or attributes called as app ID and title. That's all. When I go to the click activity under the attach window, edit selector, you can see there are all the attributes starting from app onwards, but the first 3 app ID and title are getting inherited from the parent. So that's the reason why I could see the first 3 are in disabled mode. Remaining all are enabled. So I can only modify the last 3 lines of my XML document. Same is the case with another button called as 8. You can see the first 3 are inherited from the top and the remaining things are enabled. So these are called as partial selectors. So desktop recorder, whenever the activities are under the containers like attach window, open browser or open application, you will have partial selectors. If a particular activity is not within the container, you will have absolute or full selectors. And to identify a particular UI element, the selector is getting generated automatically. I have not done anything, right? I have done click operation, that's all. And this XML has been generated automatically. This code I have not written. It has generated automatically. So selector is generated automatically, but sometimes the selector may not fit for all different situations. To suit to a particular situation, you may have to fine tune the selector. To do that, I modify the corresponding selector. How do you modify it? One way is directly go here and do it, or click on Open UI Explorer here, which is a great tool to basically work with the UI elements. I have clicked on UI Explorer. It has opened up a UI Explorer. You can also open it from here. Let me cancel it here. You can select this Launch UI Explorer, which is the same thing. So UI Explorer helps us to visualize the entire application starting from the root node. So you can see a tree here. Starting from application host, you can see a calculator application. Under that, you have a menu bar, button to minimize, button to maximize, button to close calculator. I'm trying to attach to this browser window. What is that I would like to perform? Type into activity. So let me choose type into. Where do I want to type? Select the search box and type mobile phone. Save it. Let me run it whether I would like to see whether it will type content here in the search window. Let me run it. It has tried to type, but the page has opened a bit slow, and that's the reason why before it has actually opened, it started typing. So MO, it could not type. So let me run it again. It was too fast in typing. So it did type the content into the text box. Let us not worry about whether it has typed correctly or not, because that's a different problem in terms of the speed with which it is typing is higher. So that can be modified. But right now you can see it is typing the content. And let us click search button. To click on the search button, let me have click. Click on this search. Let me do once again. Edit selector. What is it trying to do? It is whether I am trying to identify the control correctly or not. Let me click on this indicate element. This is the control, search control. See, now you can see tag as button. Earlier it was IDX, which is trying to access the image. If there are certain issues like this, you can also go and click on repair, which will try to repair that. Anyway, let us see that later. Let me press OK. Save this. Right now it is in standby mode. Let me run this. It has entered some content. As I've told you, it is typing so quickly that it could not type the entire content. But right now, you can see it has typed some content into the search window. That is the intention. And it has clicked search. Now let me run the same application once again. it is taking more time, that indicates that it is going to fail. Why do you think it fails? Any idea? See, it did fail. It failed to attach to the browser because it could not find an element with the title as, cannot find the element corresponding to the selector whose title is online shopping site, so on and so forth. So let me stop this. Let me click on the selector, edit selector. Now it says invalid. This is because title that it is expecting is online shopping site for mobiles. But now Flipkart, after when we have done some kind of search, it has changed it to the title is "Oh, buy products online at best price in India." This is the title. The title of the window has completely changed, and that's the reason why it is not able to identify. One way of doing this is you can replace this content like what we have done last time using wildcard characters, or there is another option called as repair. When you click repair and select the window, this is the window in which we are trying to write. It says selector was updated to match the live element, but it has not done the correct way. Let me click on indicate. This is for what? Cancel. This is for attach browser. So let me click on edit selector. Let me click on repair. I've clicked on escape. The problem is the menu, there was some menu here, and that's the reason there was a problem. So let me go back, click on repair. Select the window, but it is not trying to do properly. So let me cancel it. It was not trying to repair it correctly because what it has done, it has completely removed the title attribute. Let me press OK. I've done press OK. So title attribute it has removed completely. Let me run it again. So it could enter the content into. So there was only one attribute called as title, and it has removed it. And that's why it could solve the problem. Let me run once again now. So when I do this, it is trying to type the content. As I've told you, it is trying to type too fast, and that's the reason we are not able to see clearly the mobile phone word. But we are able to identify or attach to the window. So my intention here is not to solve the problem of this type into, rather, how do we modify the selectors in such a way that I will be able to identify the UI elements or the application properly. So I've shown you different ways in terms of identifying the elements or fine tuning the selectors so that you can basically identify the UI elements properly, which is the crux of any workflow development. Once you have designed the workflow, then this should work for different situations. To make it workable for different situations, the most important thing is the selector, because every activity has got an option of selector, and if the selector is not correct, then you will not be able to run the corresponding workflow clearly. So that's the reason why I've spent a lot of time on the selectors. Right now, I would like to get into the second part of our course, which is PDF automation. If there are any questions in the first part, you can ask me now before I get into the PDF automation content. Any questions on the selectors? I'm sorry, I didn't get you. Hello, sir, I didn't get you. You can as well type in the chat window if there are any questions. Assuming that there are no questions right now, I'm getting into the PDF automation part. PDF documents are one of the most sought after way to share content from one between the application programs or between the departments. Most of the times when you want to send the data to other end through email, instead of Word document, you might go directly using a PDF document because it is more secure to send data in the form of PDF. And most of the times, the invoices that are sent by the third-party vendors are usually in PDF format. The legal documents that are created in the code complexes are basically in PDF format. And most of the times, RPA by itself requires the data to be in standard form. When I say standard form, if I have input to my robo with a written text on the paper, it is very difficult for me to identify those characters because I may need to use handwriting recognition techniques, so on, to identify the characters written by a person. And as you know, from person to person, the content changes. The characters, the way the characters are written changes. So it is very difficult for you to automate such kind of inputs. So RPA recommends you to make use of proper or standard formats of input, something like Word document or a text document, XML document, PDF document, which are in electronic form. So one of the best form is to have the document in a PDF form. So if the data is in PDF, how do we read the content or write the content into a PDF document is an important activity. So as part of this, we'll look at different set of activities that actually support PDF automation. One is read PDF text. Second activity is called as read PDF with OCR. And the third technique is screen scraping mechanism. So I'll show you all the three techniques to extract the data which is available in the PDF document. And these three techniques allow us to extract large contents of text from the PDF document. I'll tell you what is the large content and so on. And we'll then move on to the other activities. So before I get into the other parts of the slides, let me look at these three: read PDF text, read PDF with OCR, and screen scraping for PDF automation. Let me create a new sequence called as read PDF text, which is the name of the activity. So I'm creating a sequence with this, create. I hope you know how to connect it to a main workflow. When you have a project with all different XAML files, if I would like to invoke desktop.xaml, the only thing that I need to do is drag and drop here and then connect. So now When I run main, when I start from the main, it basically invokes desktop workflow, right? So I'm not getting into this. So let me get into a sequence called as read PDF text. So in this case, if I have to invoke read PDF text, I need to go to project, drag and drop read PDF.xaml. Now remove the connector here. Instead of desktop workflow, I would like to invoke read PDF text workflow. Let me save this. Go write some content here in read PDF text. I need to include an activity called as read PDF. Read PDF. Or let me type PDF. In the activities, there is no activity with the name PDF, which means that into my project, there are no activities which can support PDF. So what is that I need to do? I need to import third-party libraries which can help me with that. To do that, you need to go to Manage Packages. There is an option called as Manage Packages in the window, which is a design pane. On the design pane, click on Manage Packages. In the search window, in the type PDF. See, it says no packages found because I'm in project dependencies. In project dependencies are those activities which are already available in my machine. Instead, select all packages and search for PDF. Select all packages and search for PDF. You can see the first one. It says uipath.pdf.activities. Let me go and install this package. There is an option to install. Let me click on install. Once you click install, you have a save button below. Click on save. This will basically import all the packages which are required for my PDF automation. So now let me go to activities, pane and type PDF. Now you can see there is read PDF text, export PDF page as image, extract PDF images from PDF, join PDF files, manage PDF password, read PDF text, so on. So our interest is now read PDF text activity. So I'm dragging and dropping read PDF text. Let me choose a file from which I would like to read the text. Click on this, it will open a browse option to choose the PDF document. As part of my downloads, I have a folder with the name PDF Automation Artifacts. Let me choose struts.pdf. I've selected a PDF document, and then let me select write. Write text file. That means the content that is read is written into text file. What text you want me to write? The text that is retrieved by read PDF text. So let me go to the properties of read PDF text. Output, there is an option called as output. Output, I would like to save it into a variable. I hope you know how to create a variable. You need to press Ctrl K to create a variable of a specific type automatically. Ctrl K and then type the name of the variable. In this case, I am writing it as text output is my variable name, and press enter key. So I should be able to see text output variable. And under variable section, you can see it is of type string and the scope is read PDF text, which means it is the scope of the variable is within the entire sequence. Now let me go and give the file name. File name, choose the path where you want to save the file. Right in the within the project, in the Selector PDF automation project, I'm creating a file with the name struts.txt. Save it. Also, I would like to display that in the form of a message. So hope you know message box. Dragging and dropping message box. And I would like to also see the content in a message box instead of going and opening the text file. Let me run this. So now you can see a message box says session, request scope, action, so on. And the last line is Jakarta starts live, and there is a note above it. Let me open the PDF document. Now, in the PDF document, you can see session versus request scope action forms. That is the first line with 84 as some page number. Session versus request scope, so on. And there is a note. I helped create an ASP. I helped create an ASP page. And the last line is Jakarta starts live. Jakarta starts live. So it could extract the entire content without any problem and return that into a text document. So I can use this to read the content from a PDF document and convert it into the form of TXT. Let me go select another document. Let me show you the text file as well. Go to the project, right click on the project and open project folder. Let me show the struts.txt file. You can see it has returned the entire content into text document and the content is very clear. Let me close this. Go back to my sequence, which is read PDF text. Let me select another PDF file. Under downloads, PDF automation artifacts, I have another PDF which is called as text and image PDF. My PDF name is text and image PDF. Let me save this. Let me run this. So I'm running a read PDF text activity with on a file which has got both image content as well as text content. Earlier I've shown you a file which is having only text content. But right now this file has got both image and text. I'll show you the text file content. A message box and text box, a text file content are anyway same. Let me open the text file. And text and image PDF I'm opening, as well as this text file. Let us compare both of them. This is the text file. This is the PDF document. It says sample text and image PDF. Sample text and image PDF. It was November, although it was not yet late. The sky was dark, and when I turned into, so it could able to identify up to decades writing and heavily embellished. Heavily embellished is here. So on. And NUNC. So let me check here. NUNC up to VLPUTAT Valptate, you can see up to here, it could extract. Whereas it could not extract lorem ipsum dollar because this content is an image. It's not a Word document which is converted into PDF, rather this part of it is an image. Even though it looks like text here, it's an image which is converted into PDF form. And that's the reason why it is not able to recognize this particular content. So in these kind of scenarios where a PDF document is having text plus image content or only image content, then read PDF text is not going to help you. Instead, I need to go with another activity called as read PDF with OCR. So that is what we are going to check now. Let me go back, create a new sequence called as read PDF.
Sir, can you repeat the first one in which you are read the single PDF into the text file?
Okay. Shall we do the same thing with read PDF with OCR?
Okay, no worries.
Okay. Because only the activity, the first activity will change. If you want me, otherwise I'll do the same thing. I'm removing all these things. Read PDF text I'm showing you. Let me select an activity called as read PDF text. Drag and drop the activity called as read PDF text and choose the file that you want to read from. Which file you want me to read? I have read initially from struts.pdf. Second time, there is a file called as text and image PDF. Which one you want me to choose?
For first ones.
Struts.pdf. So I've selected the
Yes,
first
yes.
one. And the output of this text which is read from the PDF should be stored into a variable. To do that, I'm going into the properties window of this particular read PDF text. You can see there is an output property with value as text. So let me create a variable control K. Output is a variable name that I'm creating. Okay. And next thing is drag and drop write text file activity, write text file. It will ask you to give two values. One is the text output. So I can directly, if I would like to create a file with this content, this is the content, then it will create a file with this particular line or a statement. But the content is available in a variable. So let me give that variable name, which is output. Output is the name of the variable. To which file you want to write? I'm selecting the folder. I'm saving it as file.txt. I'm saving it with the name file.txt this time. Let me save this. I'm not displaying it in a message box right now. Let me debug. It has executed and has created a file called as file.txt. Let me go back to folder. You can see file.txt, which is created under my project Selector PDF automation. And you can see this is the text. Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
So let me go with PDF OCR. Let me choose an activity called as read PDF with OCR. This is to be used when you want to read some content which is available in the image format. OCR refers to optical character recognition technique. So it will use OCR technique to identify the content in the image. So that's the reason why I've used read PDF with OCR. I'm going to my folder PDF automation artifacts where I have text and image PDF. Open it. And it is asking me to drop OCR engine. There are different types of OCR engines available under UiPath. One is Microsoft OCR. Second one is UiPath OCR. So you can use any one of the OCR engine to read the content. There is no one fixed OCR which is best suitable for all cases. No. So you need to check with available OCRs to see whether you are able to identify the text from the PDF document. So let me type only OCR. You will come up with Tesseract, OCR, Microsoft OCR, Google Cloud Vision OCR, UiPath Document OCR, UiPath Screen OCR, so on. So for this case, let me use Microsoft OCR. I'm using Microsoft OCR Engine. The properties can be modified based on the need, and result text the output from this OCR, you can write it into a specific variable. So I'm doing it by typing Control K. Output is a variable name that I'm creating. The output variable that I've created in the earlier sequence is different because the scope of the output variable that I've created in read PDF text is within this sequence. And once I've created it, I've used it, and it gets destroyed after the sequence execution is completed. So I can reuse. It's like this sequence is one function, read PDF OCR is another function because it's a separate sequence. And any variable that is defined within this scope is available in this function itself. So I can very well use the same variable name in different functions. Same is the case here. I can define the same variable name in different sequences. Now, once it is done, let me drag and drop similar wave write file or write text file and give the name of the variable as output and file name as ocr.txt. Now, I would like to create a file with the name ocr.txt, save it, debug. The robo is running, Selector PDF automation robo is running. I think it's completed the execution. Let me go to the folder. There is a file called as ocr.txt now. I've opened it. It says sample text and image PDF. It was November, all those so on. Followed by, we were able to identify up to vulp date, right? Let me search for it. VULP. Okay. This was the word up to which we were able to identify earlier using read PDF text. And lorem ipsum content we were not able to identify because we were not able to extract because it was in image format. But right now I am able to extract that content entirely up to DUI. So it says DUI. I'm at DUI. This is the last two words. In OCR, it is I'm at DUI. Whereas in the case of regular read with PDF text, I was only able to extract up to vulp date. The lorem ipsum part I could not extract. So to extract the content which is in image format, you can use an OCR engine under read PDF with OCR. So we have seen two activities. One is read PDF text. Second one is read PDF with OCR. I would like to show the third alternative mechanism, which can be applied.
So
for
the content written in PDF format, the image in the PDF format can be done by this method. No? If
yes.
we having the only image that contain the text, then for that we don't use this one. Then
Sorry, I didn't get you.
If I having one image in that some text is written and I have to convert into text file, then
If it is an image file,
yes.
then read PDF
Yes.
with OCR will not work.
Okay, for that
In that
we having some
cases,
another tool.
yes, in that case you have to use screen scraping mechanism. Screen scraping mechanism basically helps you to identify content from the image. Screen scraping by default assumes whatever is available on the screen as image. Irrespective of whether it is a PDF document, Word document, it doesn't know it's a Word document or PDF document. Entire thing that it sees on the screen is image. Okay. whatever screen scraping
sir.
wizard is seeing assumes that everything is an image. Okay, so whether you open a PDF document which is having an image, or you open directly an image file which is JPG document, it is more or less the same thing. So let me go with the third mechanism, which is screen scraping wizard. For your respective question, screen scraping wizard would help you. So let me create a new sequence. This is for screen scraping. Let me drag and drop an activity, but right now I don't want to drag and drop an activity. I would like to do using screen scraping wizard. So let me click on, this is similar to your recorder case. We have not dragged and dropped anything. We have directly clicked on record. After the recording is done, we have clicked escape, saved it, and the entire workflow was available inside my sequence. Same is the case here. Let me click on screen recording. Let me select the screen which I would like to extract. So it will extract the content that I am selecting now. So right now there is a PDF document which has got image content lorem ipsum. I've clicked on that. Let's wait for a second. Right. So now you can see on the left hand side it says lorem ipsum dollar, but is the spelling correct? IP SURN it is showing. IP lorem M instead of M it is showing NL. So it tried to identify using Microsoft OCR, but in this case it was not able to clearly scrape the data exactly as it is. So which technique it has used? There are three techniques under screen scraping. One is called as native, second one is called as full text, third one is called as OCR. Which one you should use? You should always try to use native. If native is not working, let me choose native and click refresh. It could not identify any text. When it is not able to identify, native is not able to identify, you should go with full text method. Full text searches for those elements which are also hidden. So let me refresh it. It also took around 85 milliseconds, but it could not extract anything. So full text is also not able to identify the text content. So other alternative is to go with OCR. And you can choose an engine. Let me choose Microsoft Engine and click refresh. It is trying to run with Microsoft OCR engine and trying to identify the text. Even this time it is NL. So let me choose another Tesseract OCR and click on refresh. It could not identify. Let me go back. And the Tesseract OCR was able to extract lorem ipsum dollar sit amit consecutor task. So it has extracted, it doesn't know that it is line format, right? It has considered the entire thing as single line because it's an image. And there could be one or two cases where it could not have identified certain characters correctly, but it is much more better than the earlier case. Similarly, I've got UiPath screen OCR. Let me refresh with that. It is trying to run with UiPath screen OCR technique. OCR technique is slightly slower than the other activities, and OCR, UiPath OCR is not able to identify. So what is the which one is the best one among these three? You need to choose whichever is showing you the correct format of data. You can choose that. In this case, I would like to use Tesseract and click refresh. Okay, and then click on finish, and this will generate attach window. So it is first trying to attach to Adobe Acrobat Reader, and then trying to get using an activity called as get OCR. Under activities like attach window, there is get OCR. So get OCR text, which is a screen scraping based activity. You can drag and drop and then do that as well. So get OCR text, and it is using Tesseract OCR to extract the content. And if you want to display the content that is generated by Tesseract OCR, go to properties. In the text, Control K, create a variable called as output. And you can drag and drop message box, and then type output. I'm running it. It will attach to that corresponding Adobe Acrobat window. Because it's an OCR engine which is running in the background, it runs a bit slow. Right. And now you could see that in the message, lorem ipsum, so on, the image content, it was able to extract. Now we have seen how to extract the content, which is a bulk content, bulk text, right? You are able to extract the entire page. If you want to consider the entire page, you can basically go to edit, zoom mode, fit to actual size, which is Control+1, and then extract any part of the content. That is, I can extract even the content which is there here when the page is still open like this. But screen scraping wizard assumes whatever is seen on the screen as image, so it can extract the data only up to this part. Only this part of the page, whatever is visible, from that content it can extract. But if I'm using the other techniques like read PDF text, then it is going to read the entire page. So it has nothing to do with the image part. It is going to use UI elements, which are selectors, to identify the element, content. So there it won't find any problem in terms of identifying the entire page. So let me now go with the other part of the presentation, which is to extract only part of the text. I have a large document and I would like to extract only one word from it. To extract only one word, there is an activity called as get text. And you also have another activity called as anchor base. I can use either of them to extract portion of text from the PDF documents. These type of things are helpful when you want to. And the next slide is thank you anyway. So we are left out with only get text and anchor base activities. So let me go to a new sequence, which is.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
I had one query regarding screen scraping before going forward.
Yes, please.
Can I ask? Okay, so
Yes.
can you differentiate between a native full text and OCR? When these conditions should be used, like specific conditions when the text is used, or whenever there is a table, how to extract those table and how to export that file to the Excel sheet.
Okay. The first thing is there are, even though it is out of the scope, let me just quickly. First one is the native. Second one is full text. Third one is OCR engine. So native engine is helpful when you have content. For example, you have calculator application. And this calculator application, you want to extract the word called as standard. Application other activities to identify the name called as standard. But if this calculator is open on remote machine, maybe on your machine, there is a calculator application open, and I want to extract the content from a remote machine. In that case, whatever remote machine, I can use AnyDesk or other techniques, right, to access remote machine. When I access remote machine using AnyDesk or Teams viewer, whatever I would like, whatever screen I'm seeing on my page is like an image. Whatever I'm seeing is an image. So whatever I could do run is only screen scraping related activities only. You got my point? I am trying to extract the content from a machine, from an application which is running on a remote machine. And I'm trying to access that remote machine using AnyDesk or Teams viewer.
Yes.
Or any standard remote application. In that case, I can use native to extract content from something which is more structured. This image is much more structured than the earlier text content or regular image file. So native is much better to extract text from such windows. Full text will help you to extract content, as well as it can also extract hidden fields. There could be some fields which are not visible on the, maybe there could be a button here which is not shown, or a control. That control gets enabled only when you click something. Even those controls are shown directly by your full text mechanism. OCR is something which you should use when you have directly an image itself. And cases where native or full text are failing, you go with OCR. This is what you are required to do.
Yes.
And when you for the other part of the question, when you want to extract the content which is there in the table form to an Excel sheet, I request others to mute yourself. There is a wizard called as data scraping wizard. This wizard will help you to extract the content which is in structured form into an Excel sheet. For example, I think we have got 15 minutes time. So let me quickly go to a website. Maybe I'll log into my own website, c.ac.in. You can log into Flipkart website as well. Let me go to placements. There is some content which is in table form here. I would like to extract this content. I'll go to my design view. There is a data scraping wizard. Other than screen scraping, click on data scraping. It is asking, it is showing you a wizard which is called as extract wizard. Click on next. Open that screen from where you want to extract. Click on some serial number or some place where you want to. It is showing you selected a table cell. Would you like to extract the data from the whole table? Yes, I would like to extract the entire content. Click yes. It is showing you serial number, name, CTC. And when you click finish, is data spanning multiple pages? If you want to even capture data automatically from multiple pages, you can select this. So let me go to click on yes, and then select this pointer, which is indicative of next page. If I select 2, it will always search for only 2. But this pointer greater than symbol will help me to search for navigate with n number of pages. This is like wildcard character. I've clicked on greater than symbol. It's done. And the extracted content, if you want to save it, go to an activity, CSV, write CSV, write to which file. In the same project folder, I would like to create a file with the name placements.csv. But write from where? Where should I get the data from? I am getting the data into this table. Let me go to this table, which shows it has created a variable called as extract data table. Extract data table is a variable name, which is called as data table. Data table is another data type, like your int string. Data table is a data type which can hold a table structure. So let me give the name extract data table. So whatever is extracted into this data table, I am writing into CSV. Let me save this, quickly run it. Then there should be a problem, because in the attached browser, I have not specified the browser type. So it might be using the other browser type. So let me stop this. Before I run, let me go to attached browser properties. Which browser I'm trying to access? I should tell him it is Chrome browser. So let me save this and debug. PDF automation execution started. So you can see this is the second page which has opened. That means that it has extracted the content. Let me go to the project folder. You can see there is placements.csv file. You can see it has extracted only, you can see only the second page content, because the content has been replaced, not appended. So that part can be changed in the workflow, but you can see it has extracted the content and saved it to data table. The second page is Control S Cloud 4C. Where is that page? Here. Control S Cloud 4C, 4 lakhs per annum, 124, 124, so on. So the entire content is extracted and saved into a CSV document. Okay, don't save. Let me go back to my sequence. So in the write CSV file, which is out of the do loop. So if I keep it outside the do, what happens is this is like loop. it will extract multiple pages and then finally it will write it into CSV document. So let me save this. If I run this time, I'm in my first page. It has moved to the next page automatically. So it has extracted the content. This sequence, the robot did not stop yet. So I'm waiting for it to stop. It did stop now. So let me go back to placements.csv. You can see the file size has changed from 1 KB to 5 KB. That itself means that it has returned the entire content into an Excel sheet. I think I'll stop it here with Excel part. Let me go to get text, which is the pending part, because there are hardly 7 minutes left. I hope you understood how to extract it from a table. Let me go to a new
Yes, sir.
sequence.
Thank you.
I'll write it as get text. I'm creating a sequence called as get text. Let me use an activity. Okay, it is asking me to restart the UiPath Studio. I'm restarting it. Meanwhile, I'll go to my PDF automation artifacts. Let me open a sample invoice. Assume that this is the invoice which I've got. So Control+1. It will open in actual size when you press Control+1. Now you can see there is some GST invoice which has got some company name, address, the invoice value, so on. So I would like to extract what is the total amount that I have to pay to the vendor. I'm interested only in this value, so that whether a decision can be made whether to approve 13,735, yes or no. So I've received an invoice via mail or something, and I would like to process that invoice and check whether the amount is within less than 20,000, and if it is less than 20,000, I would like to directly approve it. So the first thing that needs to be done is to extract this content called as 13,735 from the PDF document. So that is what I'm going to show you now. The process. Dedicated most of my time on the selectors because selectors are the crux. Any flow you create, selectors are important thing. So if your selectors are wrong, you will not be able to design the workflow properly. The first one is the sequence was get text. 5. Let me use an activity called as attach window because it's an application. Let me use this this one sample invoice A, right? And let me use this one control. So to open in this view, what is that I can do? I should press Control+1. So what I'll do is I'll go back to my, I'll close this window. I'll close the other invoices. Going to the selector, indicate on screen. When I click indicate on screen, it will ask me which one you want to. So I would like to read it from, not this one. Let me open that file. Sample invoice A. From this file, I would like to read. Go to the selector, click on indicate on screen. Attached window is going to identify Acrobat Reader. If your reader changes from Acrobat to Foxit, then it will not be able to identify. So you need to modify the selector again. Now, once you have attached, the next step is I would like to maximize it. Maximize it, or to press Ctrl+1, you have an option called as send hotkey. Send hotkey, Control and key 1. What it does is it opens the page in a readable, in actual size form, which is I'm pressing manually Control+. It is like this. So once this is done, next step is I would like to read invoice number 38645. How do you read that? Go to activities. There is something called as get text activity. Indicate element inside the window. Let me open the PDF document. I'm clicking escape because in invoice I've selected it. So I would like to remove that. Click on indicate element inside the window, invoice. And then let me use right line or message box. The extracted text should be stored into a variable. So under get text, I'm creating a variable called as Control K invoice NO, invoice number. So let me type message box invoice number, save it, debug. You can see it has displayed a message saying that invoice number is 38645. To extract 38645, my selector is not allowing me to, when I click in edit selector and click on indicate element, it is not allowing me to select only 38645. So there is no choice for us. We have to use other techniques to extract or split this text. Whatever content that I have extracted is stored in invoice number. To extract only number, you can use string related library. I am using assign invoice number. I would like to split. It's a string, so I have got methods related to string function split. Split with what? Split with character called as hash. And assign it to a string called as, I'm giving it as only invoice. So I would like to create another into invoice number itself, invoice NO. There is an issue here. Issue is invoice number dot split with hash symbol and C as a character. Okay. The problem is compiler error encounter processing expression invoice number dot split. Value of one-dimensional array of string cannot be converted to string. Okay. So invoice number is a string, but when you split, you are getting two strings, invoice and 38645. Two strings means it's an array. So I cannot use invoice number as the output. Instead, INV I'm creating. I would like to create a variable control K, INV, and go to variables. INV, I'll change it into array because there are two values in it, and it's an array of strings. So press OK. Now there is no error message. Let me print that value. To print that value, I would like to use message box INV of 1. Save this. Let me debug it. I've clicked on debug. Press OK. I should see another message box. You can see 38645. I could extract correctly. With this, I would like to conclude about getText. GetText activity. What I've done is I've used a split function to split the characters stored into an array, and the array value I'm printing it. The same one, let me open. Oh, this is invoice 3645. Let me go to in this case also the title is same. Because the title is same, I think it should be able to identify. Let me close this. I have opened another file which is same, only file name is renamed. Let me run it. I would like to check whether it works or not. It has identified invoice number and then invoice value. You can even extract USD $40, so on. I've told you I would also show you anchor base. So to use an last activity, let me type anchor. Anchor base allows you to extract a text taking a reference point. Reference point here is, for example, I would like to extract this $0 which is a credit. I would like to know the credit amount. The activity that I should use is find. First of all, I would like to find element. Find an element called as this credit. Credit is selected, so I would like to deselect it. Click create. I'm selecting credit. So find an element called as credit. And on the right side of credit, I have the actual content, which is the content that I would like to extract, which is called as getText. I can use now getText to extract the content. You can ask me, why should I use all these? I can directly use getText. Yes, you can use it, but certain times you will not be able to extract the exact value because the position might have changed or the value itself might have changed, in which case you will not be able to identify. In that cases, anchor would help you to, it's like landmark to identify a particular person's home. You basically say beside a temple there is a house. So this temple is credit here. Let me display the message box. Let me drag and drop the message box. I'll conclude in a minute. Let me go to getText property. Whatever that I have extracted, I'll store it into a variable. So control K, credit is the value. So I'm creating a variable called as credit and print that credit in a text form credit less and its value. Save it. And one more important option is go to the anchor base, select anchor base as a whole. In the properties, you have something called as anchor position. You can select auto, sometimes it may not work. So it is better you tell her that it's on the left side. Temple is on the left side. So this word credit is on the left side of the actual content, which is 0.00 USD. Let me save this, debug it. I'm running it from the starting. So I would get invoice number followed by invoice number itself, and then 0 USD dollars. So I could extract 0 USD dollars using anchor base. That's all from my class for today. For this session, if there are any questions, I'm open for them now. Thank you. As part of this session, I've shown you what is selector, what are different types of selectors, purpose of partial and full selector, how do we modify the selector so that you can identify UI elements properly, and then we switched over to PDF automation. And in the PDF automation, I've shown you different activities like read PDF text, read PDF with OCR, followed by get text mechanism and screen scraping. If there are any questions, you can ask me now. I'm done with the session. Thank you. If there is any feedback, you can post it in the chat.
So again, this is Ritesh here. Thank you, sir, for sharing your knowledge on selectors and PDF automation. And I hope all the participants have learned the concepts very well. So once again, I wish my welcome and gratitude for delivering such a wonderful lecture on behalf of NIELIT Gorakhpur. So thank you. And now it's over for today's session. So the next session will held on tomorrow, and the schedule will be same that has been shared with the participants. So tomorrow the session will start from 9:30 a.m. So thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much.